Hey class, Prof JC here. I want to thank you so much for listening. We are in week 3 here, and for our book, John Maxwell, the book that we've been going through here, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. We're actually in chapter, I want to say this is chapter 4 here. We're just gonna kind of skip over chapter 3. I think it's an important one as well, but chapter 4, this will be our podcast for the week. And here's what we're going to talk about today: 5 ways to use your energy in connecting with other people. Okay, connecting with other people, and he's talking a lot about speaking, but leading as well, right? Speaking and leading, I always tell people, go hand in hand. I think they're both important. My one of my bonus daughters, she is. I'll be transparent with you. She struggles a little bit in school, and I did as well. I struggled a great deal in school, and so I completely get her struggle. But the one thing she's very good at is, number one, she's really bossy, and I see that with her siblings, and I see it with her friends. But that shows me that this is a future leader in action. So we don't try to squelch that. We just try to hone that, up a little bit. But she's also a great speaker. I mean, I was telling her last night she has to do a speech today in class on the day that I'm recording this, and so I'm looking forward to getting home tonight and hearing how it went. But she has to give a speech. And one of the things I told her is that because she's so good at speaking and she's good at leading, that if she can get those 2 things down, and again, that's what all this is about. And anybody can learn how to lead. Anybody can learn how to speak. Okay. And she's got the basics down. I said, this will cover a multitude of other sins, if you want to call it, all the other things that you struggle with school. If you can get these 2 things down, you will win in the long run. Okay. And that's the same thing I'm saying to all of us on the call here today as well. This idea of speaking and leading, if we can get communication down, and that's why we're talking about this communication, why this is important. If we can get connecting down and communication down, that's going to help our leadership improve drastically. Think about the best leaders you know. Okay. Every single one of them know how to connect. I promise you this. They may not be the most charismatic. They may not be the greatest speakers of all time, but I promise you, when you're thinking about them right now, you're like, okay, yeah, they're pretty good at communication. It could be writing communication or one-on-one communication, whatever it may be. It could be it from a platform or whatever, but they're good at communication, and they're also really good at connecting people. That's why these are reasons you may not have known it, but why you chose that person to be the greatest leader you've ever had. So let's talk about this a little bit. What John Maxwell says. So he says, number 1 is this. He starts off by saying it doesn't matter with whom or within what context you're trying to connect. It's always the same. You need to bring energy to do it effectively. Okay. And to make the most of connecting opportunities, you must channel that energy strategically. Okay. And he says that there are specific things you can do to help foster connection, whether it's your spouse, social gathering, coworkers, boss, meeting from a podium, or on stage in a stadium, right? Any of these things he talks about today will help all of us to be able to connect better. So number 1, he says this: connecting requires initiative, so go first. Connecting requires initiative, go first. And then he says this: I think most people recognize the value of initiative. And that's what this is. When you go first, it's initiative. They would readily admit that taking initiative is important in relationships, yet still don't take it with other people. When it comes to interacting with other people, they often wait for the other person to take the first step. But all it requires, but all that does is lead to a missed opportunity. Willingness to expend energy to initiate connection is important, not only with individuals, but also with groups and with teams. Okay, so go first. A Jewish proverb, this is what John Maxwell says too. A Jewish proverb says, the wise person does at once what the fool does at last. That's really good. The wise person does at once what the fool does at last. Too often we wait for the perfect moment to initiate with others. So what this is saying is, go first. Be the first one. When you walk into a room, especially as a leader, be the first one to walk up and just shake people's hands. And all you have to do, here's the deal, here's the trick. All you have to do is ask questions. The greatest leaders out there, they ask questions. They don't walk in and start talking about themselves. There's a great book out there by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Highly recommend you get that book and you read that book. It talks all about that, that if you really want to be great at connecting with people, learn how to ask great questions. So all you have to do is walk up, shake their hand. Hey, tell me about you. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your job. Tell me what you do. Tell me about your family, whatever it is, and let that person be the hero and let them shine. But go first. Don't stand in the corner, all by yourself. And look, for those of you on the call who are introverts, and believe it or not, I'm an introvert as well. And all an introvert means, it doesn't mean you hate people. It just means that you have to get what's the word, revived. That's not the word I'm looking for. That we regain energy. We re-energize ourselves by going off and being alone, and by reading a book or going to the beach or whatever it is. And that's for sure me. After I've had a really long, busy week like this week has been, I'll need some time to go to somewhere, whether it's my own bedroom, just when no one else is there, and open up a book and read. That's all it means. But we can still initiate, and we can still go first. So that's number one. Number two is this: connecting requires clarity. So prepare. This is key. This is something I was telling my daughter last night, is that, hey, you've got to make sure that you're preparing for these speeches, right? Whether it's a small speech in front of your school or whatever, you've got to practice, 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 practice. So when you're getting ready to speak, you practice. But even just connecting with people, that's important to do. So he talks about some things that we can know, things that we can do in order to get better at clarity, at preparation. He talks about knowing yourself, personal preparations, personal preparation, and how important that is. Know your audience, right? He's talking to speakers a lot here too, but it goes for leaders as well. Know your audience, people preparation, right? It's really important. So I do speaking and training, and most of what I do is virtual. To be honest, I work with a lot of these great companies. I do it right here from my office, or I do it from my home, or from a hotel, or whatever. But sometimes I get up in the air and travel a little bit. And last week I happened to be in Ohio, and I was doing a training for a city government for a small city. And I wanted to go, and I just wanted to wear. I was going to wear a nice suit jacket, but I was going to, and a shirt like this, maybe a shirt like this tucked in. But I wanted to wear blue jeans because I'm more comfortable. Dark blue jeans with nice pair of dress pants. And those of you on the call, especially everyone from San Diego, you would say, well, that's plenty dressed. And so I was going to go like that. Well, I talked to the guy who runs the consulting agency that I was working for, and so I represent him. It's not my consulting agency; I represent him. And I just asked what the dress code was. And he said, well, you're going to have law enforcement officers there, and you're going to have this. And I'm also thinking it's a small town, so what do they care, right? And so I asked him. He said, so you're going to have slacks, like you're going to have nice dress pants, and you're going to have a suit jacket on. I said, man, come on. So, but I took my jeans. I thought, man, I'm probably not going to, I'm just going to wear jeans. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. Well, something that morning, I got up to get ready to go, and something told me, no, go ahead and put your slacks on. The guy told you to do it. My consulting partner, consulting boss told, he said, hey, you got to wear slacks. So I said, just go ahead and wear the slacks. And the moment I walked in there, the guy who was in charge of that event, and I'd already been out there a month before to speak to them about something else, but this time this guy cared so much about this. He had a full suit on. He didn't have a tie on, but he had a full suit on. And I called David that afternoon. I said, man, thank you for your advice on that. Like, he really helped. And I'm from the Midwest. I should know this, right? I should know. It's more conservative back there. How they approach, it's much more conservative. I found that back there that when I tell too many personal stories that and I've got a lot of stories where I've had to overcome things, or I've made mistakes. But if I tell too many stories in the Midwest, that group of people about personal mistakes, they get uncomfortable, they get uneasy with that. So all of that goes into, if you're going to lead well, you're going to communicate well, you've got to know your audience. Okay, that's really important. Know your stuff. Professional preparation. That's kind of what happened with me, is know what you're bringing to the table. Okay, so those are kind of ways that we can be prepared when we're getting ready to speak, when we're getting ready to lead, especially we're leading a new group of people. Know all these things. Number three is this: when he talks about this idea of using our energy in connecting with people. Connecting requires patience, so slow down. This is something I've had to work on time and time again. I was born in South America. I was adopted to Indiana. Now I live in San Diego, but I think I should have landed in New York City, New Jersey, Philadelphia, something like that. Their energy and the way they speak is quick. Out here in San Diego, everybody's a little bit too slow for me. People start talking, and I'm kind of like, right, hurry it up, speed it up. From Indiana, for sure, they are so quiet back there. I mean, I was just back there last week, and I'm walking around talking, and I'm thinking, why am I this loud? I realized I had to bring it down because now I'm back in Indiana, and they just but it's this idea of slowing down, right? Don't go so fast when you're trying to communicate with other people. I've had moments. I actually had a moment where I was speaking too fast at one point, and my consulting partner calls me and he said, "Hey, you need to slow it down. It's becoming a credibility issue. It's becoming a credibility. I've never heard that before. So that was really good for me to hear. It's becoming a credibility issue. So it's really important that we have patience when we're speaking as well. Number four is this: connecting requires selflessness. Give. We talked about this last week. I'm not going to dive into this too much, but it's really important that you understand that it's not about you. It's never about you when you're speaking, when you're leading, when you're doing whatever it is. It's not about you. It's 100% about the people that you are working with. I will tell you that this is something that I've worked really hard at, and I'm just now in a season in the last like 18 months to 2 years. I'm just now starting to get this. This morning, I'm on a training call with a company called Infomark, and it was pretty cool. I was actually a little bit stressed out. I got there late, or I got to my office late. I ran into some traffic this morning, left a little bit too late. Just I was so scattered. But I've been doing this for a while, so it's not too terribly difficult. But I felt scattered, and somebody wrote me a really nice note in the chat and just said, "Hey, you're doing a good job. Thanks for the work, and thanks for putting the passion into this." Blah 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 blah. And one of the sentences that they said that really stood out to me is that we can tell that you something along the lines, we can tell that you value us and our time. And that's the best compliment that I could be given, because that's what I'm working towards 24/7, is making sure that other people feel valued. It's never about us when we're leading, when we're teaching, whatever it is never ever about us. It's always about the other people. Leadership is a selfless thing. Okay. So that's important. And then the last thing it talks about here, if we're going to connect, number five is this: connecting requires stamina, recharge. Connecting requires stamina, recharge. So whatever it takes for you to recharge, that's what you need to do. If you're in a leadership position, if you're in a speaking position, or whatever it is, you're speaking to people, we've got to figure out ways to recharge. And only you know that, right? I was doing another training. I was actually here in San Diego. I was asked to go over to Southwestern College and do something over there. So all these these community college educators and staff and that kind of stuff. And I got to this point where we talked about what it means to recharge and all that kind of stuff. And so I said something about what I like to do, which is meditation and journal and going to the pool and kayaking and all this kind of stuff. And some lady in the back of the room said, "This is honest to God," she said, "this, pardon my French, but I'm going to repeat what she said." She said, "I don't do any of that shit. I just go to Las Vegas." I thought it was hilarious. I thought that was the best answer that she could have given. That she didn't care about anything that I just said, meditation, all that stuff. She didn't care. She went to Vegas. Whatever it takes for you to recharge, make sure you're doing that. That's really important if you're going to lead well, if you're going to connect well with other people. Here's what I want you to do for your assignment today. I want you to list off all five that I just went through right there. Just list off what are those 5 ways. The 5 ways to use your energy in connecting. And then the next thing I want you to do is just say which one resonates most with you. And what is something you do within that point, whichever point resonates most with you, what is something that you do in that area to make yourself better? Hey, I look forward to reading your responses. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you in next week's episode. Reach out if you need me. Take care.